So now let's look at defining our own custom protocol. We're going to sort of do this in a few different steps here, but here is the basic protocol syntax. We have the keyword protocol, and then we give our protocol a name. And you'll notice that we use upper camel case just like we would with a class or a struct or an enum. And then we open and close curly braces here, and then anything inside of this closure here is going to be a part of our protocol. And so we're going to define what our protocol is going to be. So here is sort of a basic protocol. First of all, we're going to have it be called building. And it's going to have a couple things. Just like the UI table view data source function, UI table views data source protocol, it's going to have a function that is going to be the number of people inside, and it's going to return that number of people as an int. And then it's also going to have a couple properties as well, a couple variables with the number of floors and the year built. Now, really, this is all sort of made up, but the number of people inside, maybe it has to do some sort of calculation before it can return that integer, and so we need to run a function maybe to do some sort of network call or something. But for the purposes of the example, this will be great. So here's the thing. We have many different types of buildings, right? We have maybe office buildings and houses and grocery stores. And they all share a few things in common, which is where the protocol can come in handy and make sure everything that wants to be a building, no matter what kind of building it is, it meets those requirements of being a building. For example, maybe it needs to know how many floors we have, and our app needs to know what year it was built. So then we could make a data type like a struct or a class that conforms to this protocol. And we're going to talk about conformance in a while, but basically what it means is we're making sure that the thing that is going to use this protocol actually has this function and these properties here. So now we need to talk about this adoption and conformance of the protocols. And they're two different things. So we're going to look at adoption first. So adoption is when we put a colon after our struct. In this case, we're saying this is going to be an office building. So it's a more specific type of building, but we want to make sure that it is actually a building. And so what we're going to do here is put a colon and say building. This is kind of similar to subclassing. The syntax is similar, where if we had a view controller that was custom, we would say my custom view controller here, and it would say colon UI view controller. It's sort of similar in that sense. So we're adopting here, and if we were to actually build the project right now, Xcode would actually yell at us because we haven't implemented these three things in the protocol. We don't have the function yet or the variables, and so it would actually yell at us and say, hey, your struct office building does not conform to the building protocol. And so let's look at actually how to conform to the protocol. So all we really need to do is add that function and the variables. Now obviously at this point we fill in the function. So when you define the protocol, like here, you notice we don't actually open and close curly braces to say this is what the function should do, because maybe the way that you count the number of people inside of a house is different than the way that you count the number of people inside of an office building or something like that. And so what the protocol can do is leave that up to whoever is adopting the protocol to say, you need to have this function and it needs to return an int, but the way that you get that int doesn't necessarily matter, and it could be different, and that's completely okay. So that's why it lets us do this. And then we just have our variables, number of floors, and the year built, because maybe that's the same no matter what the building is. Okay, so at this point, this is all good and well, but right now it's sort of this is completely working. If we were to, build the app, it would build. However, our office building now isn't necessarily unique in a sense. So we have adopted the protocol here, and we've conformed to the protocol by adding the required properties and function to our office building. So now what we could do is maybe, finish this off by adding a couple new variables like the number of employees and whether the office building has a snack room or not. That way, we know that if we, want to check the number of floors or how many people are inside of the building at any time, we can do that because we know that this office building conforms to the building protocol, and we can essentially access those whenever we want. And then, in other functionalities that are unrelated to the protocol, we can have other properties and functions. So this is sort of the syntax for it. Let's go back to one. So we make the protocol, and we give it a name. And then inside of it, we can give it functions and or properties. And I guess I should note, you can have one function, you could have 20 functions, and you could have as many properties as you want, or you could just have properties or just functions. It's completely up to you what exactly makes up the protocol. So I want to leave you guys with a challenge here. Go ahead and take a few minutes before moving on to try to make your own just very basic protocol. It can do anything you want. It's just more than anything to get this syntax down so that you feel comfortable with it and it isn't so foreign to you, I guess. Okay, I'll see you guys in the next video.